Alright, welcome back, boys, girls, and everyone else, or according to my analytics, just boys. I hope you've all had a fantastic holiday season. I sure did. Apologies for missing out on episode 4. Sometimes, life just gets in the way. It was Christmas. Had a lot on, and these are time consuming to do as it is. Regardless, welcome back to episode 5 of season 5 of Battlebots. These are my previews and predictions. Episode 4 was a good one. We're starting to see how things shake out for this season. Tombstone avoided going 0-2. Malice, newcomers, go 2-0. Bloodsport, up and coming powerhouse by the look of it, going 2-0 with a win against Endgame just now. We saw the debut of Chomp. We saw Mad Kata starting to go from strength to strength. It was a brilliant episode, and the form lines are starting to work themselves out. Now let's see how that continues in episode 5. So, first battle up for episode 5, we have Kevin Milcheski's Claw Viper going up against Black Dragon of Team Warrior from Brazil. Coming into this battle, we've seen Kevin lead Claw Viper to an impressive victory against Hijinks, where we saw just how fast, durable, and controlling this robot can be.
It actually crossed the battle box in 1.1 seconds, according to Kevin.
I was very impressed with Claw Viper. That robot was built like a brick. It hits like a truck and seems like it has the ability to suplex. They're coming into this fight 1-0. If they can pull off this victory against a former top 16 robot, I reckon it'll be a pretty easy entry to the top 32 for this season, regardless of what happens in their next fight. Their fight against Hijinks was impressive enough for them to just completely shoot up in my rankings. Okay, let's talk about the one Brazilian team that have made it this season. Team Warrior with Black Dragon. They're coming off a controversial judge's decision against Kraken. Of course, they won that, but they did not show what they are capable of. If you saw season 4, you'll know just how damaging, fast, and reliable this robot is. So there's a lot to improve on after that last fight. But they're still 1-0, and if it were to win here, a former top 16 robot at 2-0, you'd think that would see them safely into the top 32 for this season. So as you can tell, a high stakes fight with Malice, Mad Kata, and Bloodsport all on 2-0. I reckon out of this fight we can see another robot joining them as almost a lock for the top 32. This is obviously a very interesting matchup to give Black Dragon right after their fight against Kraken. Despite that being a win, we've seen just how vulnerable Black Dragon is to a control-y sort of robot like Claw Viper. Matt Spurk was very effective at not letting that egg beater spinner touch his robot for the most part, and I reckon Kevin Milcheski will be able to pull off the same sort of driving. Claw Viper is obviously a very fast robot. It moves with venom, and I reckon we'll be able to run rings around even as fast a robot as Black Dragon. In terms of their setup, I don't think Claw Viper will go the wedge. I reckon it'll go just for the straight up and down forks at the front. I don't think they're too worried about their weapon getting damaged. It wasn't damaged even against a horizontal spinner such as Hijinks. So I think the fork setup will give them the best probability of getting a hold of Black Dragon. In terms of the Brazilians' offensive power, sure, they can land a few hits, they can send Claw Viper up into the air, but I think Claw Viper will be able to self-right very quickly, and I think it'll be able to survive the strikes. It's a powerful spinner on Black Dragon, don't get me wrong, but if Claw Viper doesn't look like one of the most durable robots in the field, I don't know what does. I'm going to have to give this to Claw Viper by judge's decision, just based on how fast, how durable it is. It really impressed me in its win against Hijinks, and we've already seen Black Dragon have trouble against a control bot this season. A 2-0 Claw Viper excites me a lot because I can't wait to see that robot against some of the elites of the competition. We haven't had a great grappler for quite a while, and this robot has the potential to go down as one of the best in its class. Black Dragon in the meantime at 1-1. I wouldn't be too worried if I were the Brazilians. I think they already impressed the selection committee enough based on their form in their past season, and I think they're a good shot at winning whatever their third fight will be. Okay, so now we're going to see two robots who weren't as impressive in their opening round fights. Here we have Ghost Raptor. I hope Chuck Pizza is feeling lucky, because either he's going to hit the jackpot or the jackpot's going to hit him.
Jackpot!
It's funny, it's interesting seeing Ghost Raptor back into the competition after a couple of seasons off. It really feels like Killatron coming back in classic Robot Wars. You know, a former top 4 robot coming back looking a bit different, kind of the basic same shape, but, you know, a little bit modified, and really just kind of a shadow of its former self, or at least that's what we saw in its fight against Shatter. At least looking at the robot, I was at least expecting it to be sort of a glass cannon of a machine, but even the weapon didn't impress that much, and it went down very quickly, the rest of the robot following shortly after. The one thing that did impress me about Ghost Raptor during that fight was the utilization of the lifting mechanism at the front that is usually supposed to raise and lower the weapon. That actually became a totally viable form of attack. So Chuck Pizza comes into this fight at 0-1 after a fight against a fairly highly rated robot, so it's not all doom and gloom, but they really need to beat these newcomers if they have any shot of the top 32, you'd think. These newcomers come in the form of Jeff Waters and Jackpot, the Las Vegas team that really didn't bury the lead on where they're from. Again, I wasn't that impressed with this robot, but they did pull out the victory against SubZero, yet you'd have to say SubZero lost that fight more than Jackpot won it. Not to take anything away from the newcomers, but that really is how the fight went down. The way I see Jackpot is that it kind of is the glass cannon that I thought Ghost Raptor would be, funnily enough. It's got this huge spinning weapon that looks like it can dish out a heap of damage if it actually gets purchase on something. Sadly, it didn't quite against SubZero, but what we did see was a lack of reliability in the drivetrain.
Oh no, do we have drivetrain issues already?
And a bit of flimsy construction, perhaps. The weapon became misaligned from itself when it hit the wall, and the front forks bent pretty easily when coming into contact with anything that could provide any force. So the form line of both of these robots is kind of similar, however Jackpot did get the win, Ghost Raptor didn't. So the way I see this fight panning out, I don't expect to see either of the weapons last at all. In fact, I reckon it could just be a one-hit KO for both weapons, leaving both of the robots able to drive and push one another. The one advantage that Ghost Raptor does have in that situation is the fact that they can use that actuating weapon mount to lift Jackpot up and push it around the box. I think if this were both robots' first fight, I would probably have given it to Jackpot. Now, after seeing their battles this season already, I reckon I have to go for Ghost Raptor instead. I think that Jackpot will end up on its back. I don't think its weapon will survive to do enough damage. I also don't think Ghost Raptor's weapon will survive either, except for that lifting mechanism. So, yeah, I'd have to say Ghost Raptor, and it'll be by knockout. And I think, yeah, both robots will be 1-1. I'm not sure if Jackpot will make it to the top 32 if they lose against Ghost Raptor here. Ghost Raptor will still have a glimmer of an opportunity depending on who they fight next. Alright, so now we have the first of just 2 robots to debut this episode. It's Grabot. Now, Grabot is a grappler, but a very different type from, say, Claw Viper. The 2 arms are designed to grab horizontally rather than have anything come underneath and lift their opponent up. They also have numerous different attachments, including these circular saws that can be seen in this test box video here. I love the little maces it's got hanging off it, like you might have seen in very old school classic Robot Wars. Other than anything it might have internally, perhaps the most conventional part of this robot is that wedge at the back, which looks like it might have a chance to deflect some heavy blows. But yeah, I can't wait to see this robot try and lift a robot up and perhaps parade it around the box if it's able. Not sure if it can, but that would be worth seeing. It's up against SubZero, a robot that we've obviously already seen fight. They fought against Jackpot back in episode 3. We went through the robot's history in my previews and predictions there, but we know that it does have an unreliable streak, and it showed that once again against Jackpot, handing the newcomers a victory. The silver lining here, however, is that they really did dominate that fight up until the point of breaking down. They got one pretty good flip in on Jackpot, dominated the control game, and made it very difficult for Jackpot to actually land a blow with the vertical spinner. Grabot, however, is a very different robot, and different from anything that SubZero has really fought before. The one noticeable thing about Grabot in this matchup is how high the ground clearance is around most of the robot. On the wedge, it looks fine. The wedge looks like it may be able to counter the flipper of SubZero, but around everywhere else, SubZero is going to get so much purchase, and I think we'll see Grabot go flying. I assume it will be fine to run upside down, however I feel like it will reduce the effectiveness of those weapons. Although having said that, it seems that they have enough weapon attachments to be able to plan for that. Unless, I don't know, are these just random weapons that the team is holding and they don't actually attach to the robot? I can't tell. Regardless, if they do go with the weapon that is seen in the picture here, it'll be interesting to see if they actually are able to grab onto SubZero, which is by no means a smooth robot. It looks like there are a lot of things on SubZero that could potentially be hooked, and if Grabot has the pushing power, then SubZero could be at its mercy. However, I don't know, SubZero's got much thicker tires, it's got 4 tires, it has the traction. We've seen multiple times with SubZero that it's able to box another robot in, be able to actually take control of a fight just through its sheer pushing power, even if the weapon's not working. So yeah, even if Grabot does get a hold of SubZero, I don't know what it can do with it. I really don't. The ground clearance is too much, and look, honestly, unless SubZero conks out like it has done a few times in the past, to be honest, I'm not seeing Grabot winning this fight. And I have to say, I think there's enough chance that SubZero could throw Grabot out, or Grabot could get stuck on something, or that it just has those first year gremlins, that I reckon I'll go for a knockout to SubZero, which will bring it to 1-1, and if they can get an impressive scalp in their third fight, they might be able to see themselves seated in the lower part of the top 32, maybe, I'm not sure. Grabot being the newcomer that it is, I don't see too much hope for it to get to the top 32 anyway, but I am happy to be surprised. Alright, here we have 2 top quality machines going at it here. They both made it to the round of 16 last season, dropped out at that stage. This, of course, is HUGE versus Hydra. I'm honestly surprised that this isn't a main event battle. Both of these robots have competed in main events before, and it just seems like the type of fight that we may see sometime down the line as a final of some sort. Anyway, HUGE we're seeing coming off a shock loss against Mammoth.
HUGE is in some serious trouble!
HUGE has always impressed the selection committee, so I wouldn't be too worried going 0-1 if I were Jonathan Schultz. It's no secret that this robot can take it up to some of the absolute best. Hydra, on the other hand, is coming off a win against Witch Doctor, and, well, that is probably the biggest scalp that you can get this season, other than perhaps Tombstone. I mean, that's arguable one way or the other, but Witch Doctor did come second last season to a robot that's not here. So as much as Jake Hewitt would know how much work there is left to be done, I feel like Hydra might have already earned its place in the top 32. But having said that, it can't afford to completely capitulate. So if you look at the numbers here, we can see that HUGE has fought 5 flippers/lifters over the course of its 2 and a bit season history. It's lost against 2 of those, against Whiplash and Mammoth, and it's beaten Bronco, Free Shipping, and SubZero. So if you look at it that way, it looks quite close. However, in the fight against Whiplash, they were outdriven in a very, very close judge's decision. And against Mammoth, well, that fight was a bit of an anomaly. It's also hard to picture Mammoth as a true flipper. So, and I'm stating the obvious here, I think the fight that we need to look at is the one against Bronco, perhaps the robot that is most like Hydra. And well, that was one of my favorite fights of Season 4. It was quite close. Bronco did get a few flips in on HUGE, which bodes well for Hydra, but at the end of the day, despite all the crazy attachments that Bronco fitted to it, Huge ended up winning that on a judge's decision, and I think even immobilized Bronco at the end of the fight, but it was too late to be a natural knockout. While Bronco put up a good fist of it, the flips that it did get on Huge were quite rare, to be honest, and Huge was able to recover very quickly from them. Hydra, surprise surprise, has not fought a robot like Huge before, so it's going to be interesting to see if it can get the same purchase on Huge as Bronco was able to. It's also going to be interesting to see if they have any attachments to aid with that. If they are able to get a flip on Huge, I think we're all expecting Huge to go flying if there is enough purchase on it. The other thing about Hydra is we have seen Hydra be vulnerable to vertical spinners in the past. However, it survived its fight against Witch Doctor, and while it showed some immobility, that was apparently due to the speed controllers overheating. I'm not certain if that was any damage that Witch Doctor inflicted itself. However, despite this newfound durability in Hydra, I always have to go with Huge in fights that aren't against horizontal spinners. It is such a difficult robot to actually tag, and any effective strikes Hydra gets on Huge are going to come more from luck than from impressive driving, I think. So I'm going to say Huge by knockout. I reckon it'll do enough damage to Hydra to immobilize it. I still think Hydra is a little bit vulnerable, a little bit susceptible to damaging weapons this season, the same way it was last season. And I reckon we'll see both of these robots at 1-1 after this fight, and both of them still in good contention for the top 32 tournament. Battle 5 will be between two robots new to the competition, one we've already seen fight before this season, and another making its debut. Reese Hewitt of the Waiachi clan has brought fusion to this season of Battlebots, an ambitious dual weapon robot, a drum at the front, and a horizontal tri-bar spinner at the back. We've seen it against Mad Catter already, where the overambitious nature of the design might have put paid to the integrity of the internals. Not to take anything away from Mad Catter, that robot really showed what it was made of against Fusion. However, it was rather telling that this robot completely burst into flames. Despite that, the power of both of the weapons looked ferocious, and I expect to see it do some real damage at some point during this competition. And now's its chance. Aegis is one of the many rookies this season, and when I first saw the design, I thought, fantastic, it looks awesome. We don't have too many flippers in Battlebots. This looks like a really cool design. It's really low to the ground, so a robot will just ride up it. It has no choice but to ride up it almost if the wedge is low enough, and it'll just get thrown into the air. And I think that's great. I think that's a really cool design. But then I saw it was armored in Kevlar, and I have to start asking questions. They say it's as strong as other materials for a fraction of the weight. However, I have to question why more teams don't use it if that's the case. Although that being said, I do like the innovation when it comes to using a different material for armor. It really spices things up, and it reminds me of the classic days of Robot Wars, where you had these garage builds that were armored in anything that the team could find, be it Kevlar or fiberglass, wood or fur. It harkens back to the good old days of the garage build, even though I feel like Kevlar is probably quite expensive. I mean, that's what Mortis was armored in, funnily enough. Fusion come into this 0-1. If they end up 0-2 at the end of this fight, I don't really see them making the top 32, which would be a real shame. I do want to see this robot do well. It's dangerous, it's innovative, it's a unique design. However, with a loss here against Aegis, I'd be hard-pressed to see who it can possibly beat in their next fight to impress the selection committee from a 1-2 record. Aegis, however, with this being their first fight, there's not as much on the line, and it wouldn't be too much of a disgrace to lose to a veteran team with a fancy new robot. Now, I really want to see the power of the flipper on Aegis. I want to see Fusion go flying at least once during this fight. I'm not sure if that's necessarily going to happen. Fusion is quite low at the front, and if Aegis gets round the back, it might just get rebuffed by that horizontal spinner. However, if they're fast enough to get the flip off on Fusion, I think we can expect it to go flying. The real test for Aegis, I think, will be how well the armor holds up. I'm not sure what Kevlar's going to be like in this day and age, and Fusion, as we know, will be able to do a lot of damage. This is obviously a difficult fight to assess since we've got a robot with only one battle's worth of experience behind it and a robot that is a complete newcomer. But I have to say, I think I'm going to go for Fusion on this one, just on the basis that it will do enough damage to perhaps knock something loose in Aegis. I mean, it's a new robot. New robots don't tend to be particularly durable. I mean, I know that goes for Fusion as well. So Aegis indeed does have a chance if they can get enough flips to jar something loose or whatnot. But I think the immediate danger in this fight comes from the weapons of Fusion, and after all, they're an experienced team as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go Fusion by knockout in this fight, and that would put them on 1-1, which, perhaps stating the obvious here, makes their third fight absolutely crucial if Reese Ewart wants to get into the round of 32. In Battle 6, we have an old team against a new team, but a lot of experience in both of them. This is Donald Hudson's Lockjaw against Emmanuel Carrier's Big Dill. The last time we saw Big Dill was in a fight against Atom 94, a fellow new robot. Emmanuel completely dominated that match with his driving. He was able to control Atom and ended up completely jammed inside of Atom's weapon, causing them to go to an early judge's decision, which Big Dill won pretty easily. This fight was a display of great control in the face of a weapon that has a lot of damage potential on the Indian-Canadian robot. Big Dill didn't really get hit, so we didn't really see the durability of the frame being tested. But what we did see was the effectiveness of those incredibly long forks on the front of Big Dill. I imagine that Lockjaw, since it's also a vertical spinner, will warrant that setup as well. Now, Atom 94, they were a completely new team, new to the sport in general, I believe, so unused to controlling these large robots. The same cannot be said for Donald Hudson. So while Emmanuel was able to control the fight against Atom 94, Donald will probably be a lot more slippery. Lockjaw is coming off a victory against a much more impressive Captain Shredderator than what we've been used to seeing. And there were a couple of concerns for Donald during that fight. First of all, the wedge split, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue against Big Dill. However, the weapon of Lockjaw didn't get up to speed very often during that fight. It really struggled to actually show any power after the first few seconds. Now, I'm not sure if that was damage caused by Captain Shredderator or perhaps a more deep-seated issue, but it's definitely something to be concerned about. However, personally, I'm not really expecting to see those same issues in this fight. Lockjaw, as good a robot as it is, its win against Captain Shredderator wasn't as convincing as what I expected it to be. So this brand new version of it might be having some teething issues a la Minotaur last season. And if that is indeed the case, this is the prime opportunity for Big Dill to actually snatch an upset here. And I think if that were to occur, that would cement a place in the top 32 for Emmanuel Carrier and his team. However, as I said, Donald Hudson is a wily driver, so this battle won't be the same exhibition of control by the Big Dill as its last fight. I absolutely expect it to be able to deflect any head-on contact from Donald Hudson's machine. However, I worry about what happens when Donald Hudson gets around to the side, and yeah, that is when, not if, just given how good a driver he is. It's going to happen at some point. We have seen Lockjaw struggle against control bots in the past. Obviously, the early version of Kraken is a fantastic example, but also its fight against Dark, it really struggled to finish it off. It is Dark, however, so that makes sense. But we did see Donald beat Quantum, and in a very fast time as well. I think Big Dill will survive for quite a while, but I'm not sure how well its frame will hold up against Lockjaw's attacks. I can see Big Dill winning this, but I'm going to have to give it to the experience of Donald Hudson and Lockjaw, and also just the damage capability as well. I think Lockjaw will win this. I think it's safer to go by knockout. This will bring Big Dill to 1-1. If they can rebound and go 2-1, a loss against Lockjaw isn't too much of a blemish on their record. It would also bring Lockjaw to 2-0, and I think given Lockjaw's history, it'll be a pretty safe road from here to get Lockjaw into the top 32. So now it's time for the main event, and it's between one robot that has been there, done that, bought the t-shirt and the hats, against a team that is fighting in their first main event. It is, of course, Witch Doctor versus Kraken, and I am stoked for Matt Spurk and Kraken to actually get to a main event against one of the top robots. This is a great opportunity for Kraken to really make its mark on the competition, and I wouldn't count it out lightly, especially not after its fight against Black Dragon. I was one of the doubters of Kraken going into that fight, but boy did it prove me wrong. Even though it lost that battle, it was a controversial judge's decision. It was very close. It was a split decision, of course, and no matter what the result, Kraken did pretty much what it set out to do, and that was to control a fight against an elite vertical spinner. It needs to be noted that Matt Spurk has a very good record against vertical spinners, not necessarily when you look at the numbers, but when you look at how Kraken holds up in the actual fights themselves. The early version of Kraken really took it up to Lockjaw. In their first fight of 2019, they actually beat Grabot, a vertical spinner that has really acquitted itself since. Last season, it also ran Wan-Hu to a judge's decision, and of course we have that fight against Black Dragon. So a 1-3 record, but in each of the fights against vertical spinners, it was able to exert control and perhaps most importantly, avoid hits for long portions of the fight. This is a fight that Witch Doctor absolutely needs to worry about. They're not going to take this fight lightly. They've already learned their lesson from that fight against Red Devil back in Season 2. This is an absolutely must-win for Witch Doctor. They don't want to be on 0-2. They may scrape into the top 32 with a 1-2 record. However, the loss against Hydra really showed the competition that even though this is the runner-up to Bite Force, even though that Bite Force isn't here, maybe Witch Doctor isn't the best robot in the competition this season. But having said that, I really do believe that this is an uphill battle for Kraken. Matt Spurk's driving is going to need to be on point once again. It was very good against Black Dragon. He really negated one of Kraken's main weaknesses from past seasons, which was the fact that when it goes on the attack, it wheelies up a little bit and lifts the wedge off the floor. That was something that didn't happen against Black Dragon often. Matt is going to need to replicate that once again for this fight against Witch Doctor. Best case scenario for Kraken is that they go for the weapon belts and are able to snap them, since I don't think those teeth will be able to get through Witch Doctor's armor. For Witch Doctor, I think the equation is quite simple. They just need to get around to the sides or to the back, take a wheel off, or just hope that their weapon does enough damage to the mouth of Kraken that it breaks the mechanism. Even if that happens, Kraken will still be able to control the fight, but a judge's decision will probably be unkind to them once again. In any case, I don't see Kraken being able to avoid that weapon for the whole fight. I reckon if Witch Doctor is able to get any sort of a strike on, it will take complete advantage of that and make sure that they maximize the damage done to Kraken. Kraken has shown itself to be a durable robot. However, I don't know if it can stand up to the damage that Witch Doctor's weapon can dish out if it's caught off balance at all. As much as I think Kraken has a chance, I reckon I gotta go the safe bet and give it to Witch Doctor and give it to them by knockout. I still think it's going to be an amazing fight. An 0-2 Kraken from this point, even with losses against Black Dragon and Witch Doctor, I think it still has a shot if it wins its next battle. It would be an absolute tragedy if Kraken didn't win a fight this season, just because it has improved so much and it's showing off what it can do. A Witch Doctor with one win under its belt is pretty much a lock for the top 32 since it was a runner-up last season. I mean, remember Bombshell getting through to the top 16 at an 0-4 record? Yeah, Witch Doctor has almost automatic entry. Alright, so that is it for episode 5 of season 5 of Battlebots. Hope you enjoyed my previews and predictions. Just to go over it again quickly, we've got Claw Viper by judge's decision and the rest by KO. Ghost Raptor, SubZero, Huge, Fusion, Lockjaw, and Witch Doctor. This season is heating up. We're already starting to get a good idea of what faces will be seen in the top 32. I reckon we're going to see at least 1 or 2 more robots this episode that we can say are almost definitely going to be there. With such a wide field, I mean, essentially half the competition is making it to the final series. It's very easy to just look and see who's going to make it. But that'll be it. Can't wait for the episode. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time.